So we were spotted out in public,
We were.
but I actually don't know if they were like knowing us from our YouTube channel or just like happened to be super friendly.
Well, they thought we were somebody else. No, we've actually started a YouTube channel. We now can't just assume that when people are like, I know you, that we're like, no, I'm not Shane. We can't assume that anymore. So it's this weird, like, do they actually know me or do they just assume I'm swimming groups?
Well, they don't assume we are squirmy and grubs. They just assume you're
Swimming
or grubs.
groups.
I don't really know.
Yeah. I'm Conor.
I'm Marissa.
Together we're Carissa.
Carissa.
This weekend we went to the Abilities Expo in New York, which I feel like is misleading in itself.
Well, they call it the New York Metro
Abilities.
Abilities Expo, aka it's in New Jersey.
Yeah, Edison, New Jersey to be exact, which if you are from the area, you will know is not New York, not even close.
It was pretty close to New York.
I mean, geographically, yeah, but very different areas. It was a second year going. We went last year, and I think last year we were pretty, I'd say, underwhelmed. And
Well, we were underwhelmed in most of it. There was one point that we were like, "Oh, this is cool.
What was that point?
Got new tires."
That's true, I did get new tires. Thanks to some of you. And I think we collectively decided that we weren't really going in. And then we were like, what do we want to do this weekend? We got nothing to do. The Abilities Expo is free, so let's just go do that. So that's what we did. Yeah. And we were underwhelmed again. But there was some cool stuff.
Yeah, we did find some cool.
So I think we're going to devote this video to the cool things that we found. They may be useful for some of you out there. They may not.
Yeah, I think one of the first things that we kind of looked over all of the vendors and we were like, oh, okay, kind of strikes our interest. There might be a couple. One of the vendors is, I think it's like Toby is the name, Dynavox.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what the name of the vendor is. Anyway, they've got their assistive communication devices is kind of what they're known for. But we were looking at one specific one of their items, and it's called an eye gaze.
Mm-hmm.
So it is basically where you attach it via like a USB-C port to your computer, and you can then use their eye gaze technology that they use for their assistive communication devices to control your computer mouse.
So it's basically like a camera that tracks your eye movement, and wherever you're looking on your screen becomes your mouse, essentially. It's something I've known about for a while, but just haven't like taken the leap to try it. Unfortunately, I do think it's fairly expensive technology.
It is.
Yeah.
They basically recommend you go through like your OVR.
Yeah.
So. Or hopefully your company will pay for it, basically, is what they were like telling us.
I mean, I went to the federal government, so.
I mean, they were saying that they worked with a guy from like, I don't know, like Google or something, and like they paid for him to have this device because it was like necessary in his employment.
Gotcha.
Anyway, the next thing I thought was super cool, Conor was like meh about.
Well, I'll let you talk about it now. Explain what
it's called the company is Braze. They basically are a blind spot sensor for wheelchairs. So it plugs into like the controls on your wheelchair and has a like LCD display monitor, it's like yay big, that will tell you attach a camera to the back and it like gives you blind spot viewage.
From my perspective, her being super excited about this is basically being like, hey Conor, you suck at driving. Let's get you a backup camera so you stop bumping into crap. No, it's super excited about it.
It also did give like sensor warnings also, which I thought is kind of weird. Like the new cars now, when like you drive past something, it like tells you like, oh, it might be in your right side mirror or like whatever. But like they make that for wheelchairs now apparently too. So that was an interesting.
Yeah, you don't want sensors by the band. But for me, all of a
Yeah,
sudden,
it would
I
be
need
nice
sensors.
sometimes.
Wow.
So you know that I'm standing next
Mhm.
to you and you won't run over my toes. The next thing, I don't actually think it was something that would be useful to us. And I feel like
Yeah.
it's useful to a very niche amount of
Yeah.
people. But if it is useful for you, like, I'm glad that the technology is there.
It was on the Neater, which is actually a very cool name. Neater. It's a neat ear. It sits on your table and it feeds you.
Yeah, so it's like a robot arm kind of, not like as big as the Jayco. Obviously, it like sits on the table and it's like automatically programmed to like scoop your food and then like bring it towards your mouth from like a table level position.
My issue is that like having the Jayco arm and like knowing how robot arms work with feeding, like I just don't see it being like I don't see it working.
I mean, yeah, at the display table, they did have like a display version that they were
Mhm.
like, running through the rotation. And they like used like peas and carrots like on the like plate. But like the example they used like didn't even scoop up any food.
Yeah. If you want one pea on your spoon,
I don't even think
maybe.
there was
Yeah.
it went towards like the area where there could be food, but like there happened to be no peas sitting there, and then like scooped it up, which it scooped up nothing, and then like fed it to an invisible person. They did say that they predominantly work with the VA.
Yeah, and that's why I think like maybe like the SCI people, it would be useful because if you have more upper body strength where like you might not be able to hold a spoon, but like if it picks something up and then you can lean forward, eat it off the spoon, that would be doable, right?
Yeah,
But like for me, having the robot airplane it into my mouth wouldn't be possible.
yeah. So I mean, it's cool. It's nice technology. I think there's room for improvement, obviously,
Yeah.
but I think for the people who do use it, I think it's a great device.
Yeah. The next one was Melissa's favorite.
I wouldn't even say my favorite. I think it was the most innovative.
I wouldn't get that far, but continue.
It's the Mo-Vis. They were like light touch joysticks. So they basically. Sorry,
And
Connor's fighting with Penny right now
she's
because.
a claw in my shirt. I'm stuck with this. She won't let go.
Look at Penny. Oh, we can get you in camera, P. Look, you're perfectly looking at
Let
the
go.
camera.
Let go.
All right. Well,
Back to filming. Sorry for that tangent.
so this Mo-Vis, they ultimately do light touch joysticks along with other things. But what kind of caught my eye is their setup. They also have like a plug-in heater, so you can plug it in to like
Yeah.
run off your battery, and it would then like heat near your joystick area to like help with motor function
I
during
mean, that
cold
would be
weather.
huge for me. Because whenever we're out, even like 50-degree weather, I get really cold. And once my hands get cold, they kind of stop functioning. And if you weren't aware, you need your hands to drive a joystick.
The thing that I kind of smiled at is as soon as we walked up to this booth, they're like, "Oh, you have a unique joystick."
Yeah,
Like so they basically wanted to know our story behind like where
yeah.
we came up with our joystick because they're clearly something that like that's kind of what they specialize. It was interesting. They're a company from Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't like directly buy their product, which is unfortunate.
I mean, that's pretty typical of
Medical
like
equipment.
metal equipment.
So they are on the Permobil distribution list
Mm-hmm.
for products. So you can get their products through Permobil. So like if you're going to your DME or like your wheelchair evaluation, you can always ask because it's a product that Permobil carries in their catalog.
Yeah.
Which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
You did try out their like super light touch and
Mhm.
then like
The
medium
super
light.
light touch was too much.
Yeah, you're like,
Like,
oh.
Yeah. But the medium I think is what I would want. And I have the wheelchair appointment coming up, so I might ask for that. But we'll see.
Moving on, I think the next kind of big section that we saw was travel.
Mhm.
It was really big. I mean, one of the speakers was Corey Lee, who talked about travel. So there were a couple
We
of
sort of, so to speak, we
yeah.
lasted about 5 minutes. And then we were like, no plus.
So one of the travel companies is Viaggio Travel. They do Costa Rica.
Which, again, you hear like Costa Rica, and you're like, that doesn't tell me somewhere I would go for accessibility. We thought that about Morocco, and it was fantastic. So when we saw this, we were like, let's give it a shot. They have a bunch of different packages. We went on their website and like, they're pretty reasonably priced.
They have anything from 4 days up to 10 days, and then if you inquire within like the website, like you can basically plan your own adventure.
Yeah.
They have like some setup stuff. They basically take care of like everything except airfare is what he said. So once you land in Costa Rica, they take care of you. I mean, for the flyer itself, like they say 4 days 5 nights, and they say $1,075 per person, which is kind of like
Yeah.
great
Good
if you
deal.
think about like traveling 4 days and 5 nights. Like,
I've been trying to talk my into driving to Costa Rica. She's not having it.
no, I'm not having driving to Costa Rica.
I don't know why. It'd be fun, these.
The next thing is another travel agency called Yoola Travel. This one,
Yeah. I didn't get great vibes from them.
they're a French travel company. I feel like they're more of a staycation travel,
True.
which that's not our traveling type. I mean, I think it's if you ask Connor his
So-
preferred traveling type, but it is not my
Speak to yourself.
preferred
It's
traveling
your
type.
joke.
They did have like 3 locations.
They have 3 homes.
They have 3 homes that they have renovated to be like completely accessible. Like to the point of like they said they offer like caregiving services if you need
Yeah.
it. They offer, like shower chairs, lift equipment, like medical assistance, like the whole gamut. So like you could basically like book a travel with them and like have a staycation and not really have to worry about anything.
They're in Lisbon, Marrakesh, and Costa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean that if that's something that you're interested in, like that's something available.
Yeah.
But really we didn't feel like that was our niche area to like be in.
Maybe it would be mine.
Yeah. Maybe he just goes
Maybe-
on a solo
yeah.
trip.
Yeah.
Peace out. Leave
Yep.
me here while I'm
Kéroul. Going to Costa.
The next one I felt like was kind of underrated and undersold.
Yeah. It was, I'm not even going to try to say it.
Kéroul?
It's basically Quebec for all. It's, obviously it's Canadian travel agency, and like,
I don't even know if they were a travel agency.
They were more of like,
advocacy agency almost. Like a
almost like an encyclopedia for like Quebec's disability travel services. But like their pamphlet, super. I don't even know if it's a booklet. They rate like. What categories?
let's see. What shall we pick? So we have Montreal. So like they have different categories that they rate each one. So you can kind of see the categories up here, but I'll read them off. So we've got like the accessible rating. So it's a wheelchair guide. Just means that there's an independent experience, and majority of people with reduced mobility can independently experience whatever that site is. Then there's partially accessible, meaning the establishment meets the main accessibility criteria, but still has some obstacles.
Which I would like to know what the
obstacles are. I mean, I would assume maybe like it might be rougher terrain or something like
what's
that.
the main? It says it meets the main. What's that?
Yeah, I mean, they probably, if I read this like in depth. And then the last one is not accessible rating means a visitor's journey encounters obstacles, thresholds, small steps, stairs, etc. Additionally, they also had services that provide for like visual impairment or deaf or hard of hearing or like neurodivergent visitors. So they kind of like you could pick Parks and Outdoors in Montreal, and they would tell you, what things and how they rate. So like you could basically like pick up one of these guides and like just drive to Montreal and like everything is there for you.
Oh, we can drive to Montreal, but we can't drive to Costa Rica? Wow. I feel like that's not very fair.
Okay. Comment down below if you think that's not fair.
Just saying. The next one is driver evaluations. So this needs some backstory.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when we drive, I mean I don't drive, when Marissa drives, I sit in the passenger side. My head control isn't great, especially with left turns. So Melissa, when we make left turns, has to do this to me for bowling, which means that she can't put her turn signal on, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can. I typically put it on before I turn. What it usually is an issue is if I'm changing lanes. That happens to be on a left-hand turn.
Yeah.
But
so you were looking for
they're called secondary controls, like control gadget.
Yeah.
So basically we ended up asking a whole bunch of people around, and they were basically like, Conor has to get a new driving evaluation for us to get it installed. So long story short, somebody did provide us with some information called aded.net. It's basically like a giant like consolidated list of all the like registered driver evaluators.
Yep.
So if you need a driver evaluation, like you can totally go to aded.net and find one if you like are required for whatever reason.
Which honestly is super helpful. It's like when we were getting evaluated for the van that we just bought, like they were just like, here's the person that you have to use. There was no like, you can shop around. I would have liked to
like evaluated the person to be like, do you fit what my my experience is?
Right.
So now we know for next time, and we're sharing the love with you guys.
Yep. And then lastly, and probably most important, like one of the reasons we really ever go to these things, I got a tune-up.
I mean, I don't know. It's kind of like a tune-up. So the Permobil Foundation, typically at Abilities Expos, has like a booth that you can register for, and they, whether you're in a manual chair or an electric wheelchair, as long as it's Permobil, they typically like they'll replace your tires, they'll fix your brakes.
They do repairs.
They do, some minor repairs. They've, change your armrest plates if you need it. Like they add some screws if you're missing them. It's kind of like a cool little like give back from Permobil.
Yes, he did have a few screws loose.
He did have a few screws loose. He's even missing some screws, but they didn't have them. So they were like, all you need is this size. They let us know. So we just have to pick them up. But the brothers that worked on his chair are pretty cool dudes.
Yeah.
They're
twins.
They're twins, and they're Scandinavia? No, not Scandinavia. Wherever Permobil originated from, like the original.
Yeah.
So they come. They love
Sweden, I think?
Sweden, yeah. They come, and every Abilities Expo kind of get like that's the way they spend their whole weekend is just helping people repair their chairs.
And they actually remembered me.
They did. They were like, "Oh, you were here last year."
So I did get recognized as me, not as Shane.
Well, we were also not sure if they recognized him specifically or if they're just really nice people and like say, "Hey, I remember you from last year," to every person. But we didn't hear them tell anybody else, so like maybe they don't.
But that was our experience. Yeah, a little bit underwhelming. We will probably end up going to Costa Rica. What are you laughing?
I mean, we probably will, yeah.
And we may or may not drive.
We're not driving.
We may. Let's table that for another time.
Okay, we'll talk about this off camera.
And we'll probably end up doing next year. Because what else are we going to do on a weekend in May?
Fair. We might be going to a different one, though. Who knows?
True.
It might be adventurous.
Yeah, they do have them all over the country.
They have LA, I think, Dallas, and then Chicago?
Is that right?
Or, yeah, I think.
That sounds right.
There's like 4 of them a year.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we forgot the biggest one we went to.
We did?
Open Sesame.
True. Yeah, Open Sesame is a residential door opener company They're actually the door opener that we have on our apartment now. And we're looking to get the ones in our new home switched out for open sesame.
Yeah, so we, basically picked their brain, asked them all the
Yeah.
questions. They had a couple of new features which our door opener doesn't have,
Yeah.
so we got to inquire to whether we can add the features via some like module chip upgrades or if we have to like upgrade our whole door
Yeah.
opener to get these new features. So
I would say, like, from an independent standpoint, like, the door opener is huge. Just being able to enter and exit, my home on my own is, a big, big independence boost.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thanks for joining us. I think we have some footage that we might show.
Yeah, I took some of
Yeah.
you getting
Getting
your
my
chair
tune
tune up.
Yep. So thanks for joining us. And, feel free to hit the like or do the hype thing. It's still weird that
Do the hype thing.
Yeah. Thanks again.
We'll catch you on the flippy flop.
Catch you on the flippy flop.